After 65, the scariest thing isn't illness. It's realizing no one calls you anymore. No check-ins, no dinner invites, no one wondering if you're okay. Worse, you start comforting yourself, and slowly, you go quiet. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you believe. Even if you speak, no one's really listening. If you've ever felt that way, don't look away. Because what comes next might shock you. It's that quiet resignation that's quietly stealing the joy from your later years. Because aging isn't the end. It's the most meaningful part of life. This video isn't just a wake-up call. It's the light at the end of a quiet hallway, a path that can help you live more fully. Even if loss and loneliness seem unavoidable, stay until the end and hit subscribe. Because I'm going to show you how life after 65 can still be warm, even if you live alone. Section 1, the painful truth after 65 and the birthday that changed me. Here's a truth people rarely talk about after 65. You slowly disappear from the lives of the people you love. No one means to do it. But one day, the phone just stops ringing. No one asks if you need anything. No one invites you out. And that silence begins to wear on your heart. I'm 72, and I've lived through that feeling. When my wife passed, I told myself I'd be fine. I still had the kids, the neighbors, a few old friends. But as time passed, each door quietly closed. My son got busy with work. My daughter lives in another state, raising 2 kids. I don't blame anyone, but loneliness doesn't need permission to grow. What I remember most is my 70th birthday. I sat in front of a cake I bought myself, waiting for a call. It never came. I smiled awkwardly, sang "Happy Birthday" alone, and turned the lights off earlier than usual. Have you ever felt something like that? A late afternoon so quiet, your heart felt a little lost too? Leave a comment below. We're not as alone as we think. Section 2. A turning point from a simple question. Have you ever asked yourself, if one day it's really just you, how will you manage? I'm not asking to make you sad. I'm asking because sometimes just thinking about it helps us finally change. Let me tell you what happened next. A few weeks after that quiet birthday, I was sitting on the old couch, the one my wife used to sit on while knitting every night. The house was so still, I could hear my own heartbeat. Then suddenly, Mr. Lewis, the neighbor at the end of the street, knocked on the door. He walked in, smiled gently, and said something that shook me. "Walter, if the day comes when it's really just you, what will you do?" That question echoed in my head all night. I started imagining things. What if I fell in the bathroom? Who would know? What if I got a fever for a week? Who would take me to the hospital? What if I couldn't get up one day? Who would come? And then I realized, loneliness doesn't kill you all at once. It drains the life out of you slowly. And the scariest part? I had started to get used to it. But that moment, the one that felt like the darkest, led me to a decision that changed the rest of my life. A decision I wish I'd made 5 years earlier. Want to know what it was? Stay with me. What comes next might change how you live your later years. Forever. Section 3. A small action that woke my life back up. The worst kind of loneliness isn't when no one's around. It's when you start getting used to that emptiness. You stop going out. You stop trying to start conversations. You convince yourself that no one really wants to hear what you have to say. Walter, thought that way too. Until one Tuesday morning, No plan, no big reason. I just put on a coat and walked to the park after weeks of barely leaving the kitchen. The air was chilly. The old bench where my wife and I used to sit still stood there. I had just sat down when a gentle voice said, "Did you come out here to feel a little less alone too?" I turned. A soft smile. Silver hair. Dorothy, 70 years old, widowed a few years back. We sat for hours, not trying to impress or entertain, just swapping stories. Her cat, my winter stew, and what it feels like to lie in bed and listen to rain by yourself. For the first time in months, my heart felt warm again. Have you ever met someone who, though a stranger, understood you more than your own family? If you have, comment, "Grateful for life." As a reminder that even late connections still arrive right on time. Section 4. When life slowly regained color. Ever since I met Dorothy, I finally had a reason to step outside each day. Nothing dramatic, just a walk, a game of chess, a warm coffee on that same bench. But those small moments pulled me out of the fog of aging. We became companions, trips to the market, trying new recipes, sitting in silence, listening to the birds. I stopped noticing time passing because I was living in it again. I used to think that after a certain age, the heart stops stirring. I was wrong. Have you ever found someone who made you want to stay a little longer, tell one more story, brew one more pot of tea, just to keep them close? If so, drop a heart in the comments. You never know who's waiting for that kind of magic. Section 5. When illness knocked and a hand reached back. Then one day, I came down with a fever. My whole body ached, and I curled up in bed, heart racing, drenched in cold sweat. A few months ago, I would have stayed there alone, trying to tough it out. But this time, Dorothy knew. She brought medicine, made soup, cooled my forehead with a damp cloth, and called my son. Something I was too proud to do. I lay there, weak, but overwhelmed. Not from the illness, but because, for the first time in years, someone truly cared if I was okay. Has someone ever cared for you? Not out of obligation, but because they truly wanted to see you well? If they're still around, don't forget to thank them today. Section 6. The hand that let go and the house that fell silent again. And then, one day, Dorothy got a call. Her son was getting married and wanted her to move in to help raise the little one. I smiled and hid my sadness. You should go. Your son needs you. That's what matters. She hesitated, but she got on that bus. I stood there, watching the doors close. My heart sank with the wheels that pulled away. The house went quiet again. But this time, the silence was heavier, because I knew what it meant to have someone, and now I'd lost that again. Have you ever watched someone leave your life, even when your heart begged them to stay? If so, share a memory below. Someone here might need to read it more than you know. Section 7. The decision no one expected. After a few weeks of trying to return to my old routine, I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't keep living alone in that house. Not because I was weak, but because I had enough courage to admit, growing old doesn't mean enduring solitude until the end. So I started looking into a senior living home just outside town, one with a garden, shared spaces, folks my age who still played chess, sipped tea, and swapped stories about old trucks and creaky knees. My son was concerned at first. "Dad, are you sure? That sounds so depressing." I smiled. "Son, loneliness is what's depressing. Have you ever thought about living somewhere with people around rather than staying in a house that's gone too quiet? If maybe crossed your mind, type "considering" below. Today might be the day your perspective shifts. Section 8. A new life where no one's left behind. I moved into the home on an October morning as golden leaves drifted across the walkway. At first, I felt like a guest in my own life. White walls, neat bed, a window overlooking the garden where a few seniors moved through Tai Chi like time itself. But slowly, things changed. Vernon, the guy next door, invited me for chess in the afternoons. May, who made banana bread, always offered me a slice on Fridays. We weren't best friends, but we shared coffee, watched birds, and said goodnight with a simple, "Sleep well, Walter." Those small rituals rebuilt something I thought I'd lost, a sense that I still belonged somewhere. Do you live alone? Ever ask yourself, if I fall, who will know? If I'm hurting, who will care? If you've ever wondered, comment, "I understand." Because you're not alone, not really. Section 9. Her final words changed everything. I came back from my walk one afternoon to a call from my son. "Dad, Dorothy's been in a car accident. She's in the ICU." Time slowed. We rushed to the hospital. Dorothy lay still, machines humming, her face pale. I sat beside her, took her hand, whispered, "Dorothy, it's me, Walter. Don't go." We still had plans. She opened her eyes barely. A single tear slipped down. "Walter," she murmured, "live well." And just like that, she was gone. Back in my room, I sat in the silence. But now I understood something deeper. Dorothy wasn't just asking me to survive. She wanted me to live for the both of us. I began writing, sharing my story with new residents, not to erase the pain, but to soften it. Because loneliness is heaviest when you carry it alone. If you're living alone, don't wait for someone to knock. Be the one who opens the door first. And if anyone's ever told you, "Live well," believe them. It may be the last and greatest gift they gave. Final message. Growing old isn't the end. It's the deepest part of life. Thank you for staying with me. I'm 72. I've lost my wife. I've lost Dorothy. I've sat through birthdays with no calls and mornings with only the ticking clock to keep me company. But I also discovered something else. Something I never would have found if I hadn't dared to step outside that one morning. What it means to truly live. Not waiting for someone to show up, but living for myself. Being present in every small, shared moment. A glance, a question. Did you come out here to feel a little less alone? I don't have the perfect aging formula to hand you, but I do know this. Old age isn't the final chapter. It's the most meaningful, most colorful, if we choose to live through it, not just pass through it. If you're lonely, step out. If you once loved, let yourself love again, softly. If you've been forgotten, start by remembering someone else. You are not invisible. You are being heard. If this story spoke to you, leave a comment, because we still have time to truly live, starting today. If this story touched your heart, please like, so I know you're out there listening. Share it. Someone else out there might need to know they're not alone. And don't forget to subscribe, so we can meet again in the next story that just might warm your soul. See you in the next video from Healthy Wisdom.